Everybody, welcome to my chronic migraine life. As you can see, this is a Monday, not a Tuesday as we usually talk, but I am taking a break from our regularly scheduled programming to celebrate my blog's 9th birthday, and I thought I would share for the first time on my YouTube channel about my blog. I haven't really talked about it in detail, and it wasn't even my YouTube channel, wasn't even in existence this time last year, so I thought it would be a nice celebration. I have all of my Queen paraphernalia at the ready, as I usually do. My blog started 9 years ago today, and it is called The Queen of F-cking Everything. There's a hyphen where the U should be in fucking if you're Googling it. I started it as I start most things in my life at a point of sheer exasperation. I've always been fascinated with stories of how people got their start. You know, as someone got an idea that changed the world or the way that we live, or brands, or not even about the money, but about the creativity process. Like, what is it that gives you an idea that changes your life from what it was to what it will be, and even the lives of those people that you don't even know or have come in contact with. And that's why I wanted to share my behind-the-scenes story today, because I hope that it's inspirational to other people. My blog was published on March 2nd, 2011 for the very first time, but I had written a handful of very small blog posts a couple of days ahead of time. It was in the middle of the night, and I was sort of at a crossroads in my life. The job that I had, my day job at the time, I had for math, like 11 years altogether. And at that time, I had been there about 5 years. And when I first started it, it was in government, and it was in politics, and it was doing some writing, actually. But it was a job that I really loved at the beginning, but no longer fulfilled me for a variety of reasons. It wasn't so much the work as the people that I worked with in the environment, and this was about the time my migraines, about 2 or 3 years into my really serious struggle with migraines, but before the ultimate peak of disaster struck. So it was a culmination of a lot of things. As a New York City resident, I have always taken really great advantage of the things that the city has to offer, in particular Broadway. And I just always was at a concert or a play or a book signing and just immersed in the arts. It's interesting when I think back now, you know, there's all these little breadcrumbs of your life and how it adds up to where you're going to be someday. When I was really young and, you know, was playing with my cousins, you know, you pretended to be married, you wheeled your dolls in a baby carriage, and you come up with, you know, a different name or whatever story it was for you playing house. And I always said writer. And my cousin Denise, shout out to Denise, always said teacher. She's a teacher now, and I'm a writer. And I think that that's just very interesting, because there are a lot of different steps we took in between, and different people we tried on to be, kind of a deal. You know, took out for a test ride. I, for instance, have a BA in sociology and an MA in political science. And really love people and love the studies of genders and religion and all that kind of stuff. And political science and law and politics has always really been a cornerstone of who I am. I went to a public school in Brooklyn where they had different programs. I was in the law program. You know, we sat in a actual courtroom, a completely real life size replica of a courtroom. Ironically, if you can read my shirt, this quote is by Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and also went to my high school, James Madison, and was the person that actually paid for and designated that courtroom. And so it's not lost on me that now as an adult, I'm such a fan of hers and such a worshiper of hers. Over the judge's chair in the courtroom where, you know, I guess you would have an American flag, or we had a flag, but like at the highest point in that room, there was a portrait of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And so she was our God, whether, I was aware of it or not. And certainly a role model for me, and I'm a great fan of hers, admire of her work and her tenacity, really, to change her life from what maybe her destiny could have been if she wasn't so exceptional and didn't really try for things, and to all the impact she's had in all of our lives. So that's why I'm wearing this shirt also. The quote is actually, I'd rather be notorious than queen. But today I'm going to explain why I hope to be both at the end of my lifetime. So when I anointed myself the Queen of F-cking Everything, I had sat down in the middle of the night and I thought, I'd been muttering around the idea of blogs, right? Everybody has a blog, especially nowadays. But back then, so there was a pretty saturated market as well. Co-workers, friends of mine have been saying, you should start a blog, you should start a blog. I'm like, ugh, why? Well, the reasons why were sort of this. At that point in my life, I had been traveling a great deal already. I traveled by myself many places. At this point, I've been to Paris and Amsterdam by myself. I've been to Philadelphia by myself. Big, small trips, anything in between. I really have a passion, though, for helping other people plan their trips, and that's where it sort of started. I have these elaborate itineraries that I still do to this day in Microsoft Excel that used to give my brother, and probably still does, give him a little tremor when he sees them all laid out, in the landscaping mode, not portrait. I go full detail. I want all the detail, all the information. I always wanted to be a planner. I'm a researcher at heart, and I always wanted to have information at the ready when I'm someplace, if I need to alter my schedule, to know what days and times and things are available. I never want to miss something, I guess, that I can control. I was never a person that waited for somebody else to do something. Sure, it's nice to have good company when you go out to eat or go to the theater, but those are things I've always done by myself also. Because I don't want to miss an opportunity of something that I could really love because I'm waiting for this mysterious person to share in my joy. It's always hard to get people on the same page with money and time, picking a day and a topic and all those kinds of things, and that was really never my style. I don't want to miss life. Because I'm waiting for whatever. And so that's what I was doing. I was always giving somebody advice or tips or travel tips or restaurant tips or plays or talking about things or where to find great discounts and all that kind of stuff. And this is really before social media took place. Remember 2011 doesn't sound that far away, but I wasn't on Instagram. I was just barely on Facebook. It was my brother that logged me into my Twitter account against my will. I wasn't really into it. My blog was started in March. December of that year, I turned 30. It's a very big combination of things. And so finally one night, I was just, I don't know, I was like, I don't know, you just get this burst of I got to do it now. And I just did. I just started typing. And when I look back at those first posts, they're very small and very expressive of emotion, something that they're not really... The blogs aren't anymore. They're usually very focused or reviews or tips or something. I don't really write personal blogs that just talk about something I'm thinking about without being in the context of some other thing that I want to share with the world. So it's very funny to see I just really did it today. Wrote back and looked at the first 3 blogs, and they're so small and so different, but so important. It's like when you see the pilot episode of your favorite show that you've been watching for 7 years on TV, and you're like, hey, that person doesn't have a sister anymore. That character's name has changed. The house name is, the house layout has changed. It's kind of like that. And it makes me nostalgic. It instantly makes me want to change it, but I'm not going to because everything should be as it is. That's how it's been looking for 9 years, and that's how it will stay. And to honor the beginning. But it's kind of cool that with 9 years out, I have laid a trail of breadcrumbs for other people to follow. And I really hope that I have shared wisdom when I talked about deep topics like my migraines, which I very rarely actually wrote about, maybe 3 or 4 times. And I reread those recently too, and they were powerful. Brought myself to tears thinking about things I hadn't thought about in a long time. Even though I spend a day a week with you guys talking about my chronic migraine life, it was different to read it. Words are powerful. I get lazy sometimes, and it's always easier to talk and tell someone a story than it is to write it down, because words are so powerful and you want to pick the right ones. But reading some of those blogs remind me why I wanted to be a writer in the first place, because it's hard and it takes time and effort. But once you've conveyed a story, once you've shared something with someone, whether it's significant or trivial, if you say it with the right words, if you use the right words, it's timeless and it's powerful. So I guess I'm a storyteller at heart also. I also used to love to take pictures. I do, but I'm lazy now. I'm using my phone instead of my professional grade camera. I spent a lot of time taking engagement pictures and newborn baby pictures for family and friends, So blogging was a natural fit, combined all of the things I really loved. And once I started, sort of like this, I was always afraid I would run out of things to say or share, and it's gone completely in the other way. I have legal size yellow papers, which I keep with me all the time. It's a mess. But of all the blogs that I'm about to working on or writing or going to work on, I used to keep an incredibly detailed database also of like when things were posted, what I wrote, what they were going to be called, all that kind of stuff. I keep a similar list now for YouTube stories, and it's interesting. I'm a list maker. So on March 2nd, that blog started with 2 words, for starters. And one of my favorite shows of all time is Friends. And if you ever notice when you're looking at the episode title, they all start with the word the. The one where Rachel gives birth, the one where Monica, whatever. So I've thought about changing it, but I don't think I ever will. All of my blogs start with the word the. Look at me. For starters, for everything. So that's been my format and my shtick, and I think I'm going to stick with it because it's served me well so far. Something I do now on the culmination of celebrating my blog's birthday, well, I guess now I'll be doing one of these also, talk, but I always write a birthday blog to myself, sort of commemorating the occasion, greatest moments, maybe lessons learned from the past year and what I hope to for the future. Followed up, usually I always wanted to do it in March, but usually runs April or May because I get sidetracked, is an annual to-do list. Annual to-do list is something I'm constantly working around, year-round, working on. As soon as I post one, I already have things that are in the bank for the following one. I had eye surgery recently, so that blog is going to be delayed, as have most of them. I haven't posted any blogs. I've only posted 4 this year. I think 2 were in February before my first eye surgery, so that's on hold. The only other time I wrote this little was when I was at the height of my migraine illnesses, and that used to be something that really tortured me. But now I know it's just in my plan, and I just have to wait it out. And my blogs that will come will be that much better because I can see with ease to write them. But how the annual to-do list started was really out of something simple. One of my first blogs that year was what I called the Keys to New York City, or My New York City. And it was the things that I had already done in New York City that I loved, that I wanted people to know about, the things that they must do. New York City encompasses 5 boroughs. It's a big place. And if you're only here for a weekend, you can't get to everything. But I approached my own city the way I would any other place I would visit, is what are your musts? What do you have to get to? And that's what I shared with other people. And it's always the thing that I've practiced and why my itineraries are so elaborate. If I was going to some place that I had been waiting to see something very specific, I always wanted to have that planned. I maybe bought the tickets ahead of time. I rearranged, travel purposes for that, just get there at that time, something you don't want to miss out on, because travel is expensive. And so is, even if it's a staycation or a dinner, you don't want to waste your hard-earned time and money and resources and miss something, an opportunity that may not come again for a very long time, if at all. And I get such joy out of sharing things that I love with people. I get excited super easily. Like, I love history. I love travel. I love anything that's a true story, which is, I guess, why I love sharing my story so much. And over the years, because of this blog, I have shared so very much with so many people, and that's what I'm most proud of. You know, um, and 9 years is a long time, and nowadays with Instagram and social media, you want to see that like button hit a million times, and you want to be making whatever amount of money, and it's all about putting it out there and being successful. But what defines success? 9 years is a long time, and there have been moments when I thought about not doing it again, but it's really not my nature to quit. What I'm getting out of it is more than anything I could ever get back. It's the pride in that I've brought somebody to a meal that they would have never tried in the first place, that I've taught somebody something that they didn't know, or made them appreciate that these are all things that are in their power to get to and to see, and that you don't need to have such a lofty goal, And my annual to-do list was a reminder to myself that I live in one of the greatest cities in the world. And just because it's in my backyard doesn't mean that I'm not paying attention. Excuse me. Prior to that list making, I don't think I was truly appreciating the greatest things in my city. If I was going to go to Philadelphia, I was going to go see the Liberty Bell. But have I been to the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty? It's the same. And it was really back before staycation words were used. But every day for me is a vacation. I always want to celebrate birthdays, big and small. Every day. I treat myself every day the same way I would want to be treated on a special occasion. And I want people to plan their lives, knowing that they can see the things that they want to see and the things they didn't even know they wanted to see. And that's what I really hope to convey with my blog. I've had amazing memories with family and friends and even strangers because of my blog. There's hardly a thing I do without thinking about how I'm going to write about it or what people need to know or deadlines. I've even organized the blog now on the side to have labels. So if you're looking for my Memphis blogs, it's under Memphis, obviously. Christmas, the best things to do in New York City in Christmas, or the best things to do when you're away on a holiday. The great jack-o'-lantern, the pumpkin blaze in upstate New York is something I did this past October for the first time. And so I made a Halloween category. I want people to be aware of the things that are around them that aren't expensive or that you can make inexpensive and feasible. I just really can't convey that enough. There's nothing that fills me much with more pride than finding something or getting to see something I've waited a long time for. Something like John Jay's house in upstate New York. John Jay was one of the founding fathers. I had wanted to go to that town for a long time. The blog, unfortunately, is still pending, but being in those rooms and seeing, Benjamin Franklin's glasses fills me with such passion that I can explode. And I want to share that with everyone. This past December on my birthday, we took a little trip, my cousins and I did, and my mother, to Philadelphia. I mentioned Philadelphia because I've gone there a lot. It's only an hour and a half from my house, so it's a nice quick trip. It could be a day trip. It can be an overnight trip. It can be whatever you want it to be. And I was with my god sister, who was 12 years old, going on 40. And I brought her to Benjamin Franklin's grave, and she wanted to see the Liberty Bell. And she said, "We're in Philadelphia, can we see the Liberty Bell?" And I was able to bring to life for her things that she was starting to learn about in school. I showed her where the First Continental Congress was held and where Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. And seeing that excitement and that joy was the best birthday gift I could have ever given myself and anybody else. It was one of the most special times of my life, that it's always that look in someone else's eye, and especially a child that I love so much, to see that it's contagious. That love of travel was sprung in her. She can see these things that she was learning about. This is where I got the t-shirt also in Philadelphia. We went to the National Museum of Jewish Heritage there in the city center, and they were having a Ruth Bader Ginsburg exhibit. It's just specifically why I went to Philadelphia in the first place. But she didn't know who Ruth Bader Ginsburg was, and to get to teach her and to show her that, there were laws where women couldn't work outside of the home and all the other different things that, might be overwhelming for a 12-year-old. it just sparks the idea. I let her walk the streets where Benjamin Franklin once stood and where his house once stood. And like, it's the same experience that when I took my brother to London and Paris. This is the Eiffel Tower. Like, these are the things that you see pictures of and people talk about, but to see something in real life, words can't express what that means to me. And, I long to visit places. I miss places that I've never actually been. Susan Songtang once said, I haven't been there yet, but it's on my list. And that is the quote that epitomizes my life. I haven't been there yet, but it's on a list. The list to write, the list to talk, the list to do. The list goes on. And it's all good things. I never knew that this is what my life would be. Even when I was little and playing house and said I wanted to be a writer, I don't think I knew what the hell that meant. But the moment I published this first blog, it changed the entire trajectory of my life. What I was before, I'm no longer doing. Now I'm able to write full time, which is a blessing. And I couldn't have done that without the support of the people that love me and take care of me. I have formed a corporation. I'm a business owner, and it makes me very proud. I have a lot of products that I hope that will be coming out in the future. I've got big goals and plans for the future. And instead of wishing that I was already at that point, I've learned, this is the year of 2020. If you've watched my first video this year, I'm already up to season 2, episode 6 this is. And so I'm just going to do the work. I'm just going to do the work every day and know that success will come if I do it. You can't be successful at something that you want if you haven't done anything yet. And so that's where I'm standing at. The things I loved before I started my blog, I still love. But it changed who I am and who I'm going to become. And in order to live the life that I imagine, I had to start here. I had to start writing. And so I always want to take a moment to celebrate. I'm blessed because I count this as my second birthday of the year. I always hated having my birthday at the end of the year, especially when you were 16 or 21, all of your friends have already done the things, the milestones that you want. But having a blog birthday gives me my birthday in March also, so I get to celebrate twice a year. And that's important to me. It's important to commemorate the moment that you decided that you wanted more for yourself, that you wanted something different, that you were brave enough to do it even if you didn't know what the hell you were doing. And a lot of the time I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But I'm doing it anyway. And that's what's important. It doesn't have to be easy. It has to be worth it. And this so has. And so with that, I was looking at my blog today and just muttering around. And something I never hardly ever do is check the stats of my blog. But I decided to do that today because I didn't write off the top of my head know a few things. So that first blog, for starters, March 2nd, 2011, had 142 views. Not bad. Total today, my blogs have had an average of 137 views. I've published 702 blogs in the 9 years. Like I said, I've had some real downtime, but peaks and valleys. All-time views of all of my blogs are a record 367,575 blogs. So almost 500,000 people have read something that I've written, and that is mind-blowing. And that same vein, which is also super cool, are the countries that my blog has been read in, right? So that's like the incredible thing about social media and the internet is like people I don't even know, the countries I've never actually visited. And so these are the list of the countries that have read something I've written so far. The U.S. obviously is the highest. Hong Kong, China, the United Arab Emirates, Germany, Japan, India, Russia, and even North Macedonia. People have been reading things that I've written. And maybe if it's not something that they're able to visit or do, it's still something that they connect on because they've come back. And that is awesome. I'm so super proud of myself. The 3 highest viewed blogs of all time, my first being this blog I wrote for a Find Out Friday, was a suicide hotline about how and when it was created. Find Out Friday is a series that I'm super proud of. It's a few years old, but it all started with a question. And that's what a lot of my blogs start with, a question. How or why did this come to be? And on Fridays, I like to look up something that we take for granted, a saying that we use in pop culture all the time, a service like the suicide hotline, and do a deep dive into the history and share it with everybody. Because sure, you could Google it, but sometimes it's just better to have a friend tell you. And so the Suicide Hotline blog got over 1,000 views, 1,093 to be exact. The second highest with 1,090 views is my blog's 7th birthday post. I don't know what was so special about that one. I have to go back and reread it myself now, but it was incredibly popular. And the third most popular is about The Wheelhouse, a Brooklyn institution famous for their grilled cheeses. I went this past August, 2019, and that had 1,077 views. So people want good food. They want to know the things that I want to know. And it's exciting that I get to share that. With all the noise that there is out there, I'm contributing something. I have something to say that's valued. I do it for myself, always first, but it's good to know that there are like-minded people out there and that I'm contributing something and helping. So that's always what I want to do. I always want to educate, inform, and inspire. And so if I've done that, then I've done my job. So here's to the next 9 years and many, many more. And I hope everybody is living their very best life. I'm not only going to be notorious, I'm always going to be the queen of fucking everything.